Hey everybody, it's 𝗪𝗏. Welcome to the White Sox Podcast. And yeah, this is a big one. It is our 1,000th episode of the podcast. I've done 1,000 of these? 1,000! 8.5 years ago, we started this podcast, not knowing exactly where it was going or how long I'd be doing it, but here we are, almost a decade later, and this podcast has been a big part of my life. Big part of my life. And all of you who have set up aside a little time of your life to listen over these years, I can't tell you how much it means to me. 1,000 episodes, 7 million downloads. And from all over the globe, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, Greece, Portugal, Kenya, Israel, Brazil, Russia, the Philippines, etc. It blows my mind that this podcast and this voice from Flossmoor, Illinois, has been heard all over the world in the last 8.5 years. So today, as we celebrate episode 1,000, I want to celebrate all of you who have listened to this podcast and have given it life. You have given it life. I might host it, but I need people to listen to it. And you have been there from the very, very beginning through good times and bad and so much in between. We've had a lot of guests on the podcast over the years. Name a White Sox player, big and small, or a coach or front office member or a legend from the past, and we've pretty much had them on the pod. But today, our guest is someone who I've known for 20 years, but somehow, some way, I've never had him on the podcast until now. 2005 World Series MVP, Jermaine 𝗍. He's here at White Sox camp, and he is here on the podcast to talk about his White Sox career and answer your questions. So, sit back, relax, strap it down. Episode 1,000. We have reached quadruple digits. Mercy, you can put it on the board. Yes, it's coming your way. Let's do it. Okay, so before I get to my conversation with Jermaine 𝗍, a little more about the podcast. When I started covering the White Sox in 2005, I was living in a sportscasting world where it was TV or bust. I was live on Comcast Sportsnet, or my stories would go live, and so much of what I did went out into the ether and disappeared forever. That was TV back then. That was my job back then. No podcasts, no social media. We didn't have a website at Comcast Sportsnet. And you look back at the 2005 postseason, the most important work of my career was on my TiVo. Remember TiVo? In 2005, 2006? We had a tape library at work, but you didn't have easy access to things like you have right now. So much of what I do today and what I consume and what you consume is on my phone, like this podcast. And it was October of 2016. The White Sox were, as Rick Hahn famously put it in a press conference, they were mired in mediocrity. They were mired in mediocrity. But you got a sense that big changes were coming. Meanwhile, the Cubs were marching towards their first World Series title in over a century. Podcasts were starting to take off. And my boss at NBC, Kevin Cross, he wanted to ride the wave of the Cubs and start a Cubs podcast. But my colleague, 𝗦𝗏 and I, we felt he was overlooking what we thought was coming for the White Sox. A rebuild that was going to have some immediate pain, but have an exciting path towards success with young players surrounding team MVP 𝗭ose Abreu. Kevin Cross has made some brilliant decisions as a TV executive, like hiring Ozzie Guillen to join me on pre- and post-game shows. But he was missing the target on this one. But as great managers and executives do, he listened to us. He believed in us. He gave us the green light. And about a week later, the first White Sox podcast dropped October 4th, 2016, episode 1. How about this? It was entitled, Will the White Sox Trade �criss Sale and Jose Quintana? And the answer was yes. and the rebuild was underway, and so was this podcast. Ryan McGuffey, �criss 𝗵𝗂, and Dan Hayes joined me. We spoke about a possible trade of those two guys and the new manager of the White Sox by the name of Rick Renteria. Gives you an idea of how long we've been doing this podcast. Some of the guests we've had on the pod over the years, I mean, there's so many to name. Hawk Harrelson, Joe West, Mark Buehrle, Ozzie, Frank. I sat down with Michael Kopech and Dylan Cease right after their debuts. Hawk's been on many times. He recorded the intro and outro for the pod. He came on for the final broadcast, right before his final broadcast. There's so many guests I could name. Steve Stone, Rick Hahn, Lucas Giolito, Don Cooper, Ethan Katz, Tim Anderson, AJ Brzezinski. They've come on many, many times, and I've appreciated it every time. Bob Nightingale, Jim Callis. Hope I'm not forgetting anybody. Jason Benetti, Albert Bell was on this podcast, not once but twice. And there have been special colleagues who have done countless podcasts with me. Ryan McGuffey, Vinny Duber, �criss 𝗵𝗂, Dan Hayes. They help provide the fabric and the fuel for this podcast, being there to talk White Sox with me whenever and wherever they remain forever friends. All right, one last thing. This podcast has allowed me to not only reach White Sox fans, but connect with you, This might be a one-way dialogue or sound like a one-way dialogue from me to you, but always know that I am one of you. I grew up a White Sox fan. It's in my blood. I might not always know what you're thinking, but I try to get as close as humanly possible to bring you a podcast that I think you want to hear. And when I'm out of ideas, what do? I turn the podcast over to you and let you pick the topics. And you guys always deliver with smart, funny, thought-provoking questions, opinions, and comments that keep the podcast humming in good times and bad. So White Sox fans, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for listening to this podcast, for being here for 1,000 episodes. It means the world to me. And I just wanted to be able to take some time to acknowledge all of you, because without you, this podcast does not exist. All right. It's time for the World Series MVP, the one and only Jermaine 𝗍. All right, first time on the podcast, Jermaine 𝗍. I've done 1,000 of these podcasts, and you were just waiting for the right time.
Waiting for the 1,000th podcast just to show up in support of you.
Yeah, thank you. If we only did 999 podcasts, you would not show up. You were waiting for 1,000.
It's either 100, or 1,000.
Okay, well, I am honored to have you here with me. You're going to answer some questions from White Sox fans, but before we get to that, your first year was 2005 with the White Sox. My first year was 2005 with the White Sox. It was from the heavens that we were brought together, right?
It was a good year for both of us.
It was a great year. Going back to that, now you signed with the White Sox, right? That was an off season when not much was expected. A lot of questions were surrounding Kenny Williams in the front office. Like, what are you guys doing? Why did you decide at that point, you know what, I want to join up with the Sox, who came off an 2004 season that was just marginal?
Well, I mean, that offseason I was a free agent, and talking to a few teams. Texas was high on my list. I actually was close to signing with Texas during that season, or that offseason. Played some golf with Kenny Williams and just kind of going over the team and what it was going to look like. And I just felt like on paper that that was going to be a better fit for me. I knew some of the guys already on the team, and just loved the pitching staff, loved the lineup where I would fit in. And, I just felt like that was going to be the best spot for me.
All right, so a lot of questions came your way from White Sox fans. Let's get down to it, because there's some really good ones. And we got 𝗏𝗍. 𝗏𝗍 is coming in hot. He's like, the 2005 team is unfairly overlooked and underappreciated by the media. How much does this irk JD and the other members of the 2005 team?
It kind of hurts a little bit, but I don't think as players we can do anything about that. we're in Chicago and we're kind of second to the Cubs, and and then I think Major League Baseball kind of views the East Coast teams, the Yankees, Mets, Phillies, those teams, and then you got the West Coast teams with the Dodgers. When you go 11-1 in the playoffs, I think you should get a little respect from all of sports. To do something like that, especially on a team that wasn't even thought of as winning a division. I think we might have been picked fourth that year in a division to do anything. And not going to put too much into it. I'm not going to be mad about it. At the end of the day, we still did something that, you dream about doing, and it's pretty special.
I think this became a thing somewhere around 2010 or so when ESPN just started overlooking on a national level the White Sox. They would list all the championships of the last 20 years in Chicago, and they'd forget the White Sox. So I think that's where that became a thing. You look at what you did in the playoffs. You beat the defending champs, swept them.
Mm-hmm.
Angels, you get 4 straight complete games against them. There were some great players on that team. And then you go to face the Astros in the World Series. They had Oswalt, Pettit, and Clemens. You guys wiped them clean. Yeah,
I think that year we had a bunch of guys that were unselfish.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody pulling on the same end of the rope. We knew we had guys that could help you win on any given day. We didn't need one guy to do it. Our pitching staff was unbelievable. We had Bobby Jenks came out of nowhere to kind of close the door for us. Like I said, 𝗬𝗏 made it a good clubhouse. He kind of let us police ourselves. He took all the attention off us at times when we would struggle and put him on himself. So that was well done by him as well. But we had guys that were, I like to just say, unselfish. Guys had, not only on the field, we hung out off the field as well, did a lot of dinners. And I think we had good chemistry, and that's the key to winning.
Yeah. And you'll just give me little nuts and bolts of things that you did behind the scenes. You don't have to really get into it, but you guys just did a lot of little things, team bonding, that goes a long way for the whole course of the season.
Yes, a lot of team bonding.
Competitions and
mostly
stuff like
dinners.
that.
We did competitions. Mm-hmm. We would compete in the weight room. Mm-hmm. We held ourselves accountable, and you got to do that to have success, and it worked for us.
Here's a question from Coach Sexton. Who is your favorite teammate on the White Sox, as well as favorite teammate outside of the White Sox organization, and what made them such good teammates?
Well, one of my favorite teammates for sure on the White Sox was 𝗦𝗏𝗏, which I just saw not too long ago. He's here in camp right now.
Mm-hmm. Not playing, by the way.
Not playing, no. But looks like he can still play.
Like he can play.
Looks like he can still play.
Yeah.
He was definitely one of my favorite teammates that I hung with a lot in Chicago. Obviously we played outfield together, so that put us in the same groups all the time. Dinners a lot. We played golf together, so that was another thing that pulled us close together. A former teammate from another team would have to be, I've got a couple. Johnny Damon, which I played with in Kansas City, and Joe Randa was another good teammate. Mike Sweeney was a good teammate. So I've had a few good teammates. It's always, similar personalities, a lot of things we like to do the same, and those are my guys.
Okay, so Rick Heiberger asks, Jermaine, do you still own the Chevy that you won as World Series MVP, and would you sell it to me?
No, I don't.
You don't own it?
I don't own it, but I know who has it. He's a good friend of mine. He's the owner of a Chevrolet dealership in California. The reason I don't still own it, I owned it for a long time, is because there's nothing really that says that was from the World Series. So if it had a insignia or something on it, on the dash or something, it was kind of like, pick out whatever you want, and here's the keys, and take it.
Was it a yellow Chevy? That's what I
That
remember.
was yellow, but I did build it silver and black. So I did do that, but there was nothing that said that was it, and it actually started breaking down a lot. But
okay. Did you sell it to him or just give it to him?
No, we had a deal going.
You had a deal
we had a
going?
deal. And I think I can get it back if I want it. So
okay. Well, you batted .438 in that World Series. You went 7 for 16. I feel bad for you. And what I mean by this is everyone remembers Scott Podsednik's walk-off homer in Game 2. Everyone remembers Paul Konerko's home run, the grand slam in that same game. Jeff Blum's home run in Game 3. Who set the tone for the World Series in Game 1, first inning? Jermaine Dye with a home run off of
Roger Clemens.
And this one kind of gets swept under the rug, right? I mean, I know it's been a big part of your life, and I'm partly to blame. I don't really talk about it very much.
Well, I mean, it was early in the game. Although, the base hit up the middle to win the World Series.
Yes. Oh, I talk about that a lot.
Yeah, that's more in a spot where it won the game, right? Getting things going. Yes, it got everybody amped up, the crowd and the team. Yeah, it should get talked more about.
I know.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, this is the first This is the first World Series in Chicago since 1959. Yeah. The place is packed. Yeah. Clemens is on the mound. I mean, how big was Clemens in 05?
Yeah.
He was the dude.
Not to mention it was an opposite field homer. Yeah. I mean, I got chills running around the base.
Yes. And you do not show a lot of emotion.
No, I don't.
But that was the most emotion I've seen you show.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big moment, World Series. Got us going a little bit, and, we went on to win. Went on to sweep.
All right. Now, in Game 4, as we switch ahead, it's funny that you drove in the first run of the World Series and the last run. Freddie Garcia's starting in Game 4. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what he said to the team after Game 3? You guys were on the bus. He takes over the microphone.
Ooh, I don't, because sometimes it's hard to even understand what Freddie's saying. But remind me.
He said, he said two things. He basically said, this is going to be over in Game 4 if you win Game 3. And then he said, I'm pretty sure if he didn't tell Don Cooper this, he told all of you, I just need one run.
Oh. I must have had my headsets on.
Yeah.
But that's Freddie.
That is Freddie.
That is Freddie. He puts it on himself to get the job done. And throughout the course of the season, there was many times where he's like, either, we're going to win the series, or I'm going to go out and pitch good, just score me a couple and stuff like that. So if he said it like that, then
that's Freddie.
That's Freddie.
Yeah. All right. Brother Bill asks, why did you, this is his words, walk away when you did at 35 years old? He said, I thought for sure you had another 2 or 3 years in you at least. Your last season was 2009. You were 35 years old, like he said. What happened there? Because you had a great first half, 20 homers, 55 RBIs in 81 games.
I started off hot, got into the second half, had a couple nagging injuries that I played through that I probably should have sat, and just took care of those. Got in some bad habits hitting-wise, and looking back, I probably would have done it a little bit differently. Just took some time off to just heal up a little bit, but and then off-season came. Didn't sign back with the White Sox. They moved in another direction. Had a couple teams that were interested. My mind was still set on starting, more of a platoon role, which I didn't see myself as that at that time. And some of the teams were way East Coast and didn't want to do that, didn't want to do the spring training in Florida. Kids were highly into youth sports at the time, and I just said I would, wait it out and see if somebody got hurt, and it didn't work out. Now there were probably some other things going on at that time that I don't really want to talk about, but you can probably figure out what was going on.
Things in the league.
Things in the league. Older players at that time, maybe they're trying to weed out some guys, but who knows? You never know. But I found it interesting that, a lot of the offers were pretty much the same. And I was in the mindset of, go out on my own terms. I didn't regret anything like that. Nothing really came my way, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, not to look back and, have remorse, but it's just, you think about it, you had this great first half because you wanted to be there for the team,
right,
and play through it. It affected your numbers, and you knew you were a free agent. You knew that teams might be looking at this and deciding, well, what does he have left in the tank because he's 35 years old, right?
Right, correct.
And you probably could have played. How many more years do you think you could have played?
Yeah, maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, so he was right.
Yeah, he was right. He was right on the 2 or 3. Yeah,
okay.
Was right.
And then he also, I don't know, this is from Chicago Joe, who asked that question. You answered it, and he said, who was the better golfer, you or 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏? Does 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 play golf?
I didn't even know that.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Chicago
Joe.
I'd say me.
I would definitely say you. What is your handicap these days?
I'm down to a 5 right now.
A 5.
Yeah. So
best round of golf you've ever played. What is it?
Best round of golf I've ever played was a 69 that I doubled the last hole.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where was this at?
This was in Chicago, actually.
What was the name of the course?
With a couple of my other good buddies at 𝗵𝗏 Harvest Farms.
Oh. 69 at 𝗵𝗏 Harvest Farms.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been a 67, but it's a 69. That's a great
Yeah.
round of golf. Ted Gruber asks, how has your life been since retirement?
Life has been great.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunate enough to have 3 kids that play D1 college sports. My 2 sons play football at University of Kansas, and my daughter's a rower at University of Tennessee. So just getting to watch them play and on the college level has been a treat for my wife and I. And I actually feel like I do more traveling now watching them than I did playing baseball. So, but it's fun. It's fun watching your kids grow up and try to figure out this life that we live in, and just loving it.
And you're here as a special, would you say a special advisor at camp?
I'm just special, I guess.
Which you are. You're special.
I'm just here kind of roaming around. Chris Getz and Josh Barfield has been so gracious to invite me here. And, we've had some breakfasts this off season, and I'd let them know I want to maybe get back into baseball. I don't know if it's the coaching side, but more of, maybe helping influence putting a team together a little bit, roaming around the minor leagues here and there. So I kind of just roam. I go into coaches' meetings. I go in the cage with the guys. I go on the field, dugout, talk to some of the players and see, what they're thinking, how they're feeling, how spring training is going. So I just roam.
Yeah.
So
I saw you chatting with Colson Montgomery. Mm-hmm. What was that conversation like?
Oh, just trying to see what his way he's going about spring training so far. He's, not, trying to still figure himself out, trying to come up with a routine, maybe, doing a little bit too much here early in camp, trying to prove. A lot of these guys are trying to, compete and prove that they deserve to be here. A lot of different guys coming from different clubs and just they're still trying to figure out how they fit in. So just trying to feel him out, give him some input of what I did to go about my business, and hopefully he takes 1 or 2 things from talking with me and incorporates that into his routine, and hopefully to make him a better player.
All right, so he's, I believe, 20. Well, his birthday's today.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, his birthday is today.
Okay.
I think he's he's maybe 22.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Where were you at 22?
So 22, I was a rookie in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I talked to him about that as well. Spring training before my rookie season, I was one of the top prospects, and I would caddy for the big name players, come in after their 2 at bats and come in, but I would get hits, right? I had a good approach. And in my rookie season, I was got called up in May, and then still trying to find myself, swinging a lot of pitches out of the zone, not really walking too much, but I'm getting hits. I'm performing. Was talked about in the rookie of the year voting, and I told him, I didn't really start figuring out my swing until second, third year in the big league. So I told him, you got time. I know you want to try to go all in right now, but right now it's just you got to learn yourself, figure out, what makes you tick and how pitchers are going to try to get you out. And, and I just want him to slow down a little bit, right? Slow down in the cages, work on technique more than just firing full on hard like you're in a game.
It's funny because I go back to your game-winning hit in Game 4, right?
Yeah.
Against Brad Lidge. You weren't trying to do too much at all.
No, I had a game plan, and Greg Walker, I told him before I went up to that at bat, I kind of knew the situation. I can see it happening where I was going to be called upon in that eighth inning to have a runner on second or third with less than 2 outs. I'm swinging good, so I'm probably not going to get good pitches to hit. And I told Greg Walker, I said, I think I'm going to sit on the slider this at bat. He goes, why are you going to do that? The guy throws 100. I go, because base open, I'm swinging good. He doesn't want me to beat him with his best pitch. So I'm going to sit on the slider. He goes, well, you're stupid if you do that, but go ahead. You have a game plan, so stick with it. And sure enough, I finally got the slider, took a couple of the fastballs, and hit the little get-me-over slider for a nice little base hit up the middle. Got to first base and looked over, and he's over there doing this to me. So, but I had a game plan. I stuck with it, paid off, and helped us win.
And that is the game within this game. And when you were a rookie, second year, third year, you don't really pick up that stuff unless you're some baseball savant. I mean, you really need a lot of time in this game to really have that kind of wherewithal, especially in that moment, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that goes over the course of your career. I mean, my rookie year, I learned a lot from the pitching staff in Atlanta, Maddox, Schmaltz, Glavine. Yeah. They taught me a lot of how pitchers try to get hitters out in certain situations. And, I just would take it all in and, finally understood, what it takes to become a professional baseball player for a long time.
Yeah. All right, here's a question. What can the 2025 White Sox do to compete like the 2005 White Sox? I don't think this person is saying, hey, the White Sox of this year are winning the World Series, but how do they bring the best of themselves and win games on a consistent basis?
I think right now, there's a whole lot of new in the locker room. New manager, new staff, new players coming from different organizations. I think in spring training here, they need to try to gain trust with each other. I know it's pretty tough because you're not playing with the same lineups every day in and day out. But I think early in the season, if they just go out there and play hard, get good pitching, starting pitching, I think at some point, I think will get them guys clicking. He's talking with him. He's definitely the right man for the job. And I think he's going to do a great job of getting these guys, pulling them together and believing in themselves and just play hard. Play hard, put pressure on the defense, have good at-bats, and before you know it, hopefully you can reel off a couple good winning series and just stack it on.
Yeah, build and build and build. So this is interesting. Heart Money, this is what he's thinking about. He goes, I'd like to ask JD why he could not get a bigger role in the movie Moneyball, and better yet, is the movie anything like those A's seasons that you were a part of?
Well, I mean, another great team I was a part of. Definitely, when they started talking about that movie, there were going to be bigger roles for a lot of guys, but Hollywood comes in and, start costing a lot of money when you got to bring in actors and guys playing themselves and all that. So basically, they got a lot of highlights. This showed me, there was a guy sitting in my locker that played me, but a lot of it was highlights of hitting home runs and stuff like that. But the movie was a good movie. A lot of it was Hollywooded, made for a good story. There was a few scenes in there that were actual. But
remember any in particular?
Yeah, the trades of moving from one team from locker room to over to our locker room. The whole 𝗻𝗻𝗶𝗹 thing was real. But I mean, it was definitely a good movie, made for a good story. I mean, happy to be on that team.
Yes, I'm sure you were. But like 𝗵𝗵 won the Cy Young and the MVP. He's not even in the movie.
Yeah, one thing I didn't like that whole pitching staff wasn't talked more about.
Yeah.
That could have been a little bit better, but
you guys had a 20-game. Actually, there was a 28-game winning streak they talk about in August and September. The last 3 of those wins were on walk-offs. You also won 16 of 17 in June. I mean, you guys were on fire. And how close was Brad Pitt to Billy Beane, do you think?
He played a good role. That was Billy.
Yeah.
Billy was superstitious a lot. He would always be in the weight room working out while we were playing and stuff like that. So that was pretty close to being factual.
Okay. A few more questions for JD here. This is from Blackhawks Enjoyer 2. He asks, Jermaine, if you could trade your World Series MVP for another World Series win in any of the following years, would you?
Yes, I think I would, only because I think when you win the World Series MVP, you're the best, one of the best at that time for 4 games, right? I think a couple guys could have won the MVP of the World Series. So the answer is yes, I would have traded my MVP trophy for to win another World Series.
'06. I always go back to '06. Like, man, if there was a team that could have repeated, that was it. You got off to such a great start in the first half.
Yes, we came back and I thought we were even better in '06 than we were in '05 and just fell a little short.
If there was a different wild card system, you guys would have made the playoffs. We can't get in hypotheticals.
Yeah, I know.
Not that I'm not thinking about that after all these years. So this is a good question from 𝗵𝗻𝗀56. I guess he's a big Mark Burley fan. Hypothetical. If you were to make it into the Hall of Fame, what cap are you wearing? You played for the A's and you played for the Braves and the Royals and the White Sox. Who are you going in as?
No doubt would be the White Sox, for sure. No doubt. Had some good years in Chicago. Had a few good years in Kansas City as well. Oakland, not too bad. Got a little injured in Oakland, but definitely Chicago would be the hat I would wear.
And you're wearing it right now.
I'm wearing it right now.
Okay. Ian Zarina, his question for you is, will you be at any regular season games this year, Jermaine?
The answer would be yes. I should be there. I know I'm coming in for the Mark Burley statue and the '05 anniversary reunion with the team.
That's the weekend of July 11th.
And I'm sure I'll now that I'm dipping in a little bit of spring training here, I'm sure I'll roll into town and go sit up with Jerry and 𝗪𝗪𝗀 and hang out with the team and just check everybody out.
All right. Well, it's been great catching up with you, and it's awesome that you're here. I love that the Sox are, leaning on you and 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 and guys who know what it's like to play winning baseball and spread that kind of knowledge here with the team. And who would know better about winning a World Series than you? So the 1000th episode, we finally got you here.
We got it done.
So when we get to 2000, we'll have you back, hopefully sooner than that. We'll be old men by then.
All right.
But
thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure sitting and talking with you. Don't be afraid to invite me on TV for pre and post.
I would love to have
I'll be a guest appearance one day.
Done. We're rolling on this. This is on camera. So
It's
Jermaine Dye is going to be coming on pre and post at some point. That is 100% a guarantee. JD, appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for listening to the 1000th episode of the White Sox Podcast. And I toss it off to my compadre, 𝗪𝗪𝗀 𝗪𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 legend?
You can put it on the board. Yes.
Hawk, take it away.
All right, Chuck, this edition of the White Sox Podcast is over.